Alright, so let's say you've climbed the ranks in the anime soul levels enough to where you can make a tier 5 for the card making, like page and spinning public cards. You do not know how to make a tier 5, and you want to learn how to make a tier 5 the easiest way possible. I'm going to be here to show you how to make a tier 5 the easiest way possible. First thing you're going to do is go to your window, go to layer comps, and immediately go to tier 5. What I personally do from here, turn off the box glow and the name back, because you won't really be using that ever, really, to be honest. 99% of tier 5s don't have these. And if they do, they're older cards or just happen to work on a card. And then you've got to get your render. I'll be doing Dio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for this one. And this personally, I have the right to use this art. I got permission from the artist. But when you go to make a tier 5 and you have fan art, you need to get permissions and you need to show that you have permissions and a screenshot to the card leads for submissions. I re-rendered everything. I made sure there's no white lines, or if there is lines anywhere, that they're out of the way and they're not going to be on the card. I'm going to duplicate the layer onto the template after I cleaned it all up, and it should look like this. I'm going to put it where it goes. For a render, I usually put them in between the darkening, just underneath the frame, because I move the frame down because I'm going to put the render above the frame. And I have the darkening cropped out to where it's not going to be affected by the frame. Whoops. And from here, I'm going to put a mask on this. So you're going to control click this little mask that's on this character layer. And I'm going to first apply this mask, because I forgot to do that. And then click this mask button. This is going to mask him in the card itself. So now he's not popping out at all. But I want him to pop out in some spots since it's a tier 5. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to control click this layer and get rid of it completely on that. But for this card specifically, his hair is cut off in the art. I don't really want to redraw it, so I'm going to just go to the mask, switch to black, and repaint this area, and it will allow it to come back. And there you go, right there. That's the parts that are going to be popping out for this. This card is for educational purposes. It's not actually being added to the game, by the way. Now I forgot to turn off this layer, so I'm going to turn it off. And I have my background. I'm just using a standard landscape background. Just so, because this render's pretty big and I just want to take up some space in the back. So I have the background now. Control T, so you can free transform it. Just scale it up a bit if you need to. And then I'm going to scroll it down into this background folder. This has a mask on it, so it's automatically going to mask it where I need it to be. And you just have and when you mask it, you have these nice little clouds and stuff, which are going to be really good for when you put effects over it. Next thing I'm going to do is the text, like the basic text. So I'm going to put JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I'm going to put his name and his form, so it's going to be Dio, and I'll just put vampire for this, since it's vampire, and a quote. I have a quote over here on my notepad, and I'm going to type it out real quick. And then I go and make it italic and bold, so it pops out more and you know it's a quote. You could put quotation marks, it's up to you. Like if you put quotation marks, it'll look like this. I personally don't, because I feel like they just look kind of cheesy, having quotation marks on it. But make sure you put proper punctuation. Some tier 6s don't have punctuation on them at all in the descriptions, and they look off. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this info, like the info back, and I'm just going to like use the selection tool and just like select up until this frame bit and delete it, because there's that little tag there that I don't like on my cards. And I'm going to save the character name for one of the last few things. And the next thing I'm going to do is going to do the frame. A lot of tier 5s I use regular old frames, but I crop the art, meaning like I use the art as the background. For this I need to actually make the background bigger, like that. And I can go back to the frame and add some overlays. Now what I would do here is just put this on screen and pick a color. This is just white as an example, but for this card I think I'm going to go with like a bluish color scheme, like the very old tier 6 Dio. And change it to overlay blend mode. A lot of the times you're just testing the waters and see what's working. Like you can go to overlay here and then put it on screen, or lighten and lower the opacity a bit. You can mess with this however you want. Or you could even put a GIF, like I can control O and go to like these effects that I have saved. And let's say I wanted to make the frame part of this, like just a frame of this GIF. Just gonna drag it over, scale it up, go over to the frame layer, copy that, and mask it. Now it's gonna be over there, and let's say, for example, I want to make this blue. How am I gonna make it blue? I'm gonna use a hue and saturation adjustment layer. So you click down here to get to adjustments, and you do hue and saturation, and then you right click this, and you go create clipping mask. This makes anything that happens on this hue and saturation happen to only the frame layer that I have it on. And then I will go down to colorize. And from there, I'm just going to go over to blue and raise it up a bit. So now you get this blue frame. And let's say I want to mess with this blend mode a bit. And I can turn off this. So now it's going to blend into the background as well. You can just continue messing with blend modes until you like it. Like you can easily just scroll in and out of these options and see what you can do. I think I'm going to go with screen just for like consistency and how easy it'll look. Okay, so I have Dio done. I have the background. We're going to add PNG effects and stuff, and frames of GIF effects as well. So I'm going to add these little sparkles. I feel like if you add them into the background, they really pop out enough to be really like effective on the card. Because tier 5s, you want to use PNG effects. They are really helpful to make your cards pop out. Like PNG effects in general help cards pop out, tier 5 and tier 6. So I can add this, for example, back here and change the blend mode on it. I can have it on like, make it little tiny dots, or you can make them like, you just mess with like this. Like for instance, that looks pretty nice. Like that kind of blend mode action. And then I just make another hue and saturation clipping mask to make it blue. Here, you got a little blue star right here. And then you can easily just select these, and you can either hit Control G or you can hit Group from Layers. Control G, now it's a group. And then you can control, or you can just duplicate this layer. And there's two, and you can just move them wherever you want. You can duplicate it again. Put it wherever you want. This one I'm actually going to put above Dio. So I'm going to move this group above Dio. So it has that like 3D effect. So now you have one above Dio, so it looks like it's actually like part of the card and not just the background. And I'll duplicate it again and put another one in the corner, in the side. That's the darkening layer, sorry. Just Control T, since you don't want to touch the darkening layer. And I'll put it right here. Alright, so I want to mess with these texts to make them like blend in with the card. This series name is already blue, but you can spice it up a bit by adding a color overlay on white, and then going over to outer glow and making the outer glow blue. This just like adds like, what's the word? How do you put the word? It's like it adds like an extra like pop to the card, and it allows you to like blend into how you want to make the card look. So I'm just going to copy the layer style here. That way you can easily paste. Like when you right click on a layer, you have these layer style options. You can copy them, paste them, and this all will allow you to just like, if you have one setting you like, you can apply it to everything. And I'm going to mess with this info back as well. And I'm going to make it a dark blue. Maybe more of a blackish dark blue. And then go to the info text and paste the layer style so it has that big glow in here. I'll do the same thing over here. For personally with the info flames, I always keep them white. They usually just look a lot cleaner when they're white. Turn on the effects again and turn off the outer glow. And then I can go to the flame, which is down here. Make it any color I want. In this case, blue works really well. I'm going to make it a little bit of a darker blue and switch it to color. Now it's a little bit darker and blends in with the card's theme. Next up would be the stars. Stars are really complicated, okay? Like, to some people, they're really hard to get done right, but I have a really easy method to it. You just turn off the effects for every single star and just edit the group of stars. And then first thing I do is go to overlay and make it white, a white overlay. This allows you to lay any colors on top of them that you want, and it creates like this really soft effect. You can duplicate these as you please. You can add lights and dark tones like that, and then you add an outer glow. In this case, color dodge would work really well. And I can just add that color dodge, raise the size of it, raise the opacity. Maybe instead of color dodge, just a normal, and then make it a little bit smaller actually for this card, and make it slightly darker, like that. That's a really good example for stars. And so if you want to, you could also add a pattern overlay. A lot of people do pattern overlays. It adds like an extra kick. I don't have patterns on this PC since I just got it, but you can just download a bunch of patterns, save them as patterns, and just go through and see which looks good, because this actually looks pretty cool. If I just mess with the blend modes, see what we can do here. Right there, yeah, it's like this grain, like these spots, and then just lower the opacity of it. And they're really soft and look nice. You go up to this darkening layer. If you want to mess with your darkening, in this case, I'll make it blue. Never use a white darkening, by the way, because the issue number is white and it goes right here. And I just make it slightly dark so it blends in with the theme of the card. And let's see, I'm going to add these sparkles now that I want to add. Make them bigger. In terms of effects, you don't want to keep these, you don't want low quality in general on cards, but since you're messing with blend modes on effects, you can't really tell the majority of the time. So you can just go control click this mask, put it on here, and then just mess with blend modes. Alright, in this case, I think I'm going to go with lighten and turn down the opacity a little bit, like that. And then I'm going to hue and saturation with a clipping mask. Like that. Make it a little bit of a darker blue. Alright, that's most of the basics right there, and it was only like, what, 15 minutes-ish? These cards, once you get them like down good, you can like speedrun these things and you can make them look really nice still. I'm going to mess with this frame a bit more because I don't really like it that much. So I'm going to go down to here, screen. I'm going to actually set a base color. Put this frame back and set a base color for the frame. Instead of it being this like blue, put it on overlay. I'm going to use like a bit darker color. Or maybe just set it to normal. And now you have just a regular old background, but it blends into the surroundings. And let's see, what else do I want to do? I want to add like this like wave effect in the back. So I'm going to see what GIFs I have downloaded. This one would work. So I'm going to try it out. See how this would look. Drag it up to here. Control T. Make it bigger. Like that. It's like in the Northern Lights almost. You can just mess with the blend modes and all that kind of stuff, and then I can create that clipping mask to make it whatever color I want. This hue and saturation thing is a lifesaver, so you can use any effects you want on your cards. Like all of your favorite effects you could use. And I'm going to mess with the opacity a bit. Honestly, I think that the background like doesn't show enough at all. So I'm going to make it bigger. So you can actually see a bit of the background, so you get that city. Like the city from the anime. This actually looks like the "oh, you're approaching me" moment. And let me mask this real quick. Alright. So that's a lot of it right there. The card's over halfway done. I'm going to start closing these. I personally don't usually save it if I'm making it on a card, because it's just really fast and you don't have to really worry about it too much. These GIFs, you're always going to have to say no when you close them, otherwise you're going to mess up the like GIF itself, or have it as a PSD that you don't need. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Dio's render, and I'm going to add a color overlay to it. Put it on soft light, lower the opacity. It's going to add like a bluish tint to him, make it a little bit brighter. Now he's like blending into the background. And I can add an outer glow if you want. So let's say I want to put this blue on here and put it on like color dodge. Or maybe just regular old screen, raise the opacity up, put it on color dodge. So now it almost creates like that aura effect. Dio actually uses gold aura, so you can even go to gold here. And look at that. That looks really cool. You can even make this card like, I think this will be fine with this glow here. Let me look. Yeah, it'll be fine. So what I'm going to do, actually, is I'm going to change up the color scheme of this card midway. Because I see this gold looks really nice, so I'm going to make the entire card gold. Like a goldish theme, like his stand. So you're going to go through here, and just make any adjustments you need to make it match that theme. And this happens all the time when you're making cards, by the way. You're going to like see something that looks really cool, and then say, oh, I actually want to try this instead. And it's all about that experimentation and finding what looks right, what looks best to match the character and your card. So you can just make this entire, I can just make this entire card gold now. And the best part is with this like copy and paste layer style, you just change it real quick, make it this like this deep orange, and just copy and paste this layer style throughout everything that I wanted to put it on. I can put it back on the series name, and there you go right there. Go back to the info back. Make this maybe more orange-ish like that. And then paste the layer style onto here. And then go to these little PNGs that you had before. I gotta find mine. I figure out where I put them. I think there's a couple on top. Yeah, these ones. You can go into here, mess with the hue and saturations to make these orange, like that. They don't have to all be exactly the same, I guess, because you can make some yellow, some more red. I'm going to try and make these as close as possible just by eyeballing them, just for the sake of the video being too long. Then I'm going to go over to, that's the sparkles, I believe, right? Yeah, so that's already fixed. Then I can go to this, change this to orange. That actually looks really cool. I like that. That purplish looks really nice with this. And then mess with this, make this orange, like that, and that makes the aura stand out even more too. I like that. Then you can go into this background as well, and add that orange tint to it. So I'll make sure you make this a bright orange tint, and lower that opacity a bit. And I'm going to go over to this frame again. I'm going to mess with it a little more. Let's see, how would this look if I turn this off? Alright, so I kind of need it. Let's see what this color overlay is. It's a dark blue. Alright, let's make it a dark gold, like that. All that's left to change is the stars, and then I can just add the name and then the adjustment layers, which I'll talk about in a bit. So we can change this to a dark orange as the dark layer, and then go over here and make this gold right here, like that. Maybe a little bit more orange. And then change the outer glow to an orange. Alright, now from here, I'm just going to add the name real quick. So I have the character name turned off, I believe, yeah. So for here, what I usually do, just drag it into a space that you think it would fit. It could fit, if in this card's case, it could fit right here. So I'm just going to type in Dio real quick. Maybe even Dio Brando, depending on if the font supports it. Let's see what fonts I have. You can download all your fonts on the font website, and you can just search any theme that you think could fit your card. I have like these fake Japanese fonts that might work well. We'll see. See how that looks on the card. That could potentially work out depending on how I mess with it. Then I'm just going to duplicate it real quick so I can put that Brando part. And then just drag it down here. Now I'm going to mess with the blend modes and make these pop out. So I'm going to put it on overlay, or maybe screen, I think. I think screen is what I do for text. Put it on screen and add an overlay. No, wait, no, I was right. It was the other way around. And put this on screen. Alright, so that makes it transparent almost. I can add a gradient if you want to. Let's say I go to oranges. Grab this orangish pink gradient. Raise the opacity and put it on screen. It creates that gradient effect. Let's say I want to make this less pink and more orange. You can just go and fix that real quick. And then you can add a glow if you want to. You can add a stroke. Of course, an outer stroke is probably like the best thing to do for a name. Like, let's say I want to make that black outline, or I want to make a second gold outer glow. Like right there, that looks pretty cool. The font isn't the best, but you would go and find a font that you think is right. Me personally, since this is just a card to show you what you can do, this is fine. And the final thing that you need to know about is adjustment layers. See how Dio just kind of like is a completely different color than this background, and they kind of just like contrast really bad? Well, then you can just fix that. I personally just close the entire card like this, go to adjustments, brightness contrast, raise that contrast so he blends in way more. You could raise brightness if you want to, lower it of course if you wanted to. Brightness contrast I use on almost every card personally. Alright, another one, a good one is hue and saturation. Let's say this is too orange, I want to change that. Make it more red, you can make it more yellow. I'm actually going to make it slightly more yellow, like that. And then saturation, I don't really mess with too much because it becomes fried or completely black and white. But you can tweak it a little bit if you feel like you want to make some certain colors stand out more. Another one I use is exposure. Exposure helps create like a lighting, so you can raise the exposure, lower the exposure. And this offset is also really nice. So you can create a slight offset like that, and then use the gamma correction option, tighten it, and creates a soft look on it. You can of course brighten that soft look, lower it, but it makes the card look glossy, which is really nice. Alright, so the card's almost done. I'm just going to personally check and make sure everything's fine by going down to the check layers, making sure nothing's too off. I think that glow isn't that great. So I'm going to go over to the render, and I'm going to group it. Just going to Control G, put this in a group. I'm going to mask that group. I'm going to take this glow off. Like, I don't want this glow over here. So I can just go. There, that glow's gone. But of course you got to even it out with the frame. And you could just keep doing this anywhere you see it wrong. So, like that. And of course I really like that glow that's on there. So you can create that yourself by going over to here, to the frame layer. And you can add an inner glow right here, or an inner shadow. But inner glow creates that kind of like, almost, what's it called? Beveled effect. You can change it to any color you'd want. Like that, or maybe brighter. I personally really like that, but you see how this cuts off? I need to mask it better. So go over to this group, and mask it a bit. If you can't tell already, I came in completely blind into making this. I thought I was going to make a blue card, and it turned out to be gold. That's like, that shows like what happens when you experiment a lot. You just can immediately change what you're doing. But yeah, this card's pretty much done. All you gotta do is make sure you save the PSD, so you can edit it if you need to, and then save it as a PNG and submit it online. Make sure if you're using fan art, you credit it, and make sure that if you're supporting a server, to type in their ID. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. Enjoy making cards.